Okay, here we are. Hello everyone, November the 4th, this is Koji Vihara, and we are looking at the cosmic weather out there. And as I had predicted, the 4th of November would be a real turning point, and sure it has. Okay, let's get started here. Let's break it down to the detail what happened today. So I woke up here in the morning news. Tommy Robinson acquitted of all charges under the Terrorism Act. This is big. This is a big win. The judge was blistering in his criticism of the police, saying their testimony lacked credibility and that they had in fact targeted Tommy for political reasons, which is illegal. So here we have it, the judge who is daring to stand up and speak for the truth. Exactly that Chiron Aries constellation, which is now really pushing towards exactness, which is the honoring of truth and integrity over anything else. And sure enough, a few hours later we have these two big solar flares, X1.8 at 1734 and X1.2 at 22:01 p.m., which in itself is a mirror number, so there's multiple messages hidden in here. First of all, naturally big solar flares are always a sign that something extraordinary is happening astrologically, as I have shown you over the last many months. This was the biggest flare actually since June the 19th. Right here we have it. This is actually the flash of which was photographed by the space probe, by Helio Observatory. So this was the fifth largest X-class general solar flare, I should say, of this year. You see here you have it, 2025 November the 4th, the fifth biggest one here on this side, which catalogs the most important, biggest actions of the sun, so to say, energy releases. So as I have shown you in the past, in the last, you can go back to my recordings, it's always X-flares are connected with some big events astrologically, and today even real occurrences like Tony Robbins here, great victory for the people. And here we have the charts of the moment. Actually, this is yet another one which we will go into, which is really the big one. I should go back to it for 1 second. This is really the big event of the day, which happened actually after the flares. But let's get to this. So this is heliocentric Saturn starting a whole 29.5 year cycle. Heliocentric, again, for those of you who are new to heliocentric astrology, that is the energy of the sun. That is the energy we receive 8 minutes later by the photons, the neutrinos, which are carrying quantum packages of energies, and they are interacting with us. We are living of solar energy, as you certainly know. If the sun would be shutting off for, I guess, less than 6 hours, everything would vanish, would freeze to death. That's how deeply dependent we are on solar energy. That's why the frequency of solar energy, and this is really the sun receiving these angles from the different planets, being put into a certain energetic geometry, because each of these little things here we have in this astrological chart, which is really kind of the mapping of the whole 360-degree sphere around the sun in this picture here, naturally flattened into a plane. So that's what it is. So if you have the sun here at the center, then that is where Earth is, and That's where Saturn is right now, as seen from the Sun. This is where Jupiter is, as seen from the Sun. That's the two big weights. So with Saturn entering a whole new 29-year cycle, this is a great rebirth. To put it simple, rebirth of Saturn energy. Saturn is the great teacher, period. That is well agreed upon all astrologers. Where Saturn is in your chart, this is your life lessons. This is where you learn to handle matter, interact with matter, and accept the laws of nature. Laws is a very big word. It's the natural laws, the laws of this dimension, gravity, and all these basic laws of temperature and pressure, which we are dealing with on a very physical plane, and then naturally the extensions of these laws into the real world. How to deal with money, for example, a very big lesson everybody goes through, very Saturnian too. How to deal with integrity, another really big one. How to keep your boundaries and know when to shut up, literally, when to put the brake on. It is the cosmic brake, if you want. That's one way of saying it, versus Jupiter being the cosmic accelerator as the two main planets really of our solar system. These are really the big ones. They stand out in size way above others. I guess Jupiter is in the range of 150,000 kilometers, which is 12 times the diameter of Earth, versus Saturn is slightly smaller, something like 100,000, but then it has its big ring system around it, which actually makes it even bigger than Jupiter in the end. But you see, these are really the two heavyweights. That's why they are so important for long-time predictions of cycles. And as I showed you in many prior videos, if we look at the Jupiter-Saturn cycles, we see the changes in society, the changes in economies, the changes in the rise and fall of whole cultures. And yeah, it's pretty accurate. You can go back through my recordings and already look at it yourself. Right now we are actually in a really nice rhythm with the year numbers. So 2000 was a new cycle starting, 2020 it will be again 2040, and so has it been through the 20th century, 1980, 1960, 1940. It's really amazing, easily to see within each 20-year period that this was a particular chapter we were living through. So we are now in this chapter which started in December 2020 with these two big planets unifying at the beginning of the sign Aquarius, right in the very first degree. And we are now pretty much coming to be 1/3 through the cycle, as Jupiter is now approaching the 120 degrees. So, but we just are really in the first third, not even quite, of this 20-year cycle, so there's still long ways to go. But the long and short, Saturn is the one big event of today, having changed signs in energy. Now marching up strongly, fast towards Neptune, and this will be really the conjunction of our times. It's one of the most important ones, as it's at the very beginning of the zodiac. Actually, in heliocentric astrology, they already meet on December 11 at 1 degree and 14 minutes in Aries. And then on February 20 they meet, as seen from Earth, actually at 0 degrees and 45 minutes of arc. That's really in the very first degree of the zodiac. This is a whole new creation, a reconception of reality in a new way, which we have no idea yet because it's just about to be born. I like the understanding that there's things we know, that's what's known, and then we have what is unknown, and then there's a third group, even the biggest part, which is the unknowable, what we have no imagination of at all, which is totally other. I really also like that what the guide says through Paul Selig. The link is underneath in the description. Always really well recommended to tune into what these ascended masters have to say as a reflection to what's happening here on Earth. They're from the order of Melchizedek. So this is an intelligence which goes back through time, through millions of years most likely. Anyway, it's an intelligence which is here to help us get through what is happening. They say we are giving a whole new reality birth right now, in a nutshell said. And it will be so different that we should not even try to imagine it, that we should just go with the flow in a very basic way said, and really enjoy the ride, see the exceptional opportunity there is in what is unfolding right now. We are really coming to the crest of the wave, as I have said many times. This will be it, the February 26th. So we're heading towards that. This is now, but really getting intense, getting into really high waves, deep water. Whatever has been before might have been already quite intense, but what we are now seeing, it's getting exponentially bigger, and that's exactly what today showed. Now look at that. Let's get to the charts here, the series of charts which I have for you. So Mars entered Sagittarius at 1 p.m. in the United Kingdom, you could say, in Europe, Central Europe, mid-afternoon. So it might have been that, actually it most likely is that Tony Robbins was just relieved at the very, very beginning of this energy, and you can see, I mean, it is quite something. Mars here at 0 degree Sagittarius, that sign of freedom, integrity, of courage, of revolution, of standing up for one's own rights, sovereignty, all of that and the above. It is a sign of warrior qualities, of not giving up before the goal is reached. Mars has just been traveling over the black moon here, so it is pretty charged, knows what it's talking about. Now, hours later, at 5:30 p.m., actually 4 minutes prior to the big solar flare, which is super interesting in itself. So it shows again how, you see, that's the chart of the flare according to the NASA date, which we are given 1734. 4 minutes prior we have the exact Mars-Uranus opposition. So, and it's not the opposition as we experience it on Earth. This is geocentric. That means literally, if you look at them, let me show you where the planets are here in this chart. So it is Uranus at 008 in Gemini, and Mars at 008 in Sagittarius. Actually, this is really putting the cream onto the coffee, the raisin onto the cake. this might get a little technical for some of you, but this is where hexagram 20 starts, and the overlay of the 64 hexagrams. Hexagram 20 is contemplation. Actually, Saturn is just at the very end of going back into the prior I Ching hexagram, which is number 8, which is finding union, which is actually a really beautiful energy. It's that last degrees of the sign Taurus. And interestingly enough, that is where the Pleiades are in at this juncture of time. If we look at eons, very interesting. Also, the dark star Algol is in this section, which is kind of the contrast. It's the evil eye of the Medusa. So it is a place of deep integration with matter. That is that final section of Taurus. Taurus being the most basic earth sign of the zodiac, as it's number 2, literally, just following the very first sign of the zodiac. It is literally the seeding, the giving birth, the planting of something, and with all that emotional investment of beauty and of pleasure as well. It is still, in a way, in its infancy, and that comes to a fruition here in this last hexagram of confluence, of union. And then as we get into early Gemini, we get into the contemplation period of truly reflecting on of what we now have achieved. Gemini is a beautiful sign of reflection, of communication. And now, guess what? Okay, 4 minutes later, we have the heliocentric flare 1.8, the 5th largest of this year, as I showed you. And this is now heliocentric, as seen from the sun. Here is Earth in this picture. And then here is the sun, you could think. So when we look at the sun and see the flare coming off in this area, that means it's pretty directly heading towards Mercury and Pallas. Pallas being an asteroid, yes, an asteroid, one of the main 4 asteroids. Do I say it right? Yes, sometimes. Anyway, the asteroids, the ones which give us the roles to play to bridge the personal with the collective, with this social framework of reality and the collective in a bigger way. So Mercury is a personal planet. This is affecting each of us in our very unique personal way. In Pisces, imagination, dreams are strong. We have here OR10, which is Gong Gong now, as it has been named. Gong Gong being the water dragon, which the story is gets mad when it's not given its fair share, rams his head into a mountain, causes rivers to flow backward. So there is some powerful energy hidden in that planet, and Mercury has just lined up with this force in a way. Mercury moves quite fast, heliocentric, about 5 degrees a day. So, but that solar flare exploding right in the face of Mercury and Pallas is energizing these planets naturally. I guess that's as simple as one can say it. And through that, whatever Mercury means in the energetic realm of archetypes, it fuels our perception, makes our dreams more intense, and also wants us to get more into expression of it. Interesting also if we look at the dwarfs, which change every 2.5 degrees. It's kind of the 12 signs within one, kind of the fractal principle. So 7:30 to 10 degrees is Gemini frequency. And we have a Gemini rising. So it is really about that going to discovery, starting to express things and give it a description, then it can be reflected upon. So this is really what is happening here in that next stage, very strongly. Now let's see what else happened on this day. So it started, as I say, 1 p.m. Universal Time with Mars entering Sagittarius. At 5:30 p.m. Mars-Uranus opposition. 5:34, the big solar flare, the 5th largest of this year. And then, okay, I guess I have to click here again. Okay, and then a few hours later again, so that was 5:30. Now we have 10:35 hours later. Now, by now, as I'm recording this is really happened already. Saturn is now expressing energetically through Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, which means building something new from scratch and going through the hardship of the pains of the beginnings of making learning literally trial and error. It is pioneering new land. It is like you're moving into a place where nobody has lived yet, and you're really building from scratch up. You're rooting your survival in a whole new environment. That's the base energy we are now receiving globally, collectively. So go back to my earlier recordings, which give really the bigger picture. Here I'm now really focusing in what is now. And then this is again, this is the energetic mandala as seen, perceived by the sun, which then emanates these energies towards us. Yes, I won't go too deep into the charts. One could definitely do that, and I'm encouraging you to take screenshots and analyze them more in depth. There is lots and lots hidden of wonderful energies in these charts, and you understand time much better. This is the art of time. Astrology is the art of time. I want to say that once. The science of time, you could even say. As we can understand any point in history and in the future by zooming in on it and reading its energy, and we know in a nutshell what the expressions will be. Yes, there will be many ways these energies can express, but you know the basics of kind of what's the resonance patterns, if you want. Anyway, this is the heliocentric now. Let's see how this moment when Saturn was exactly okay, now I'm already a step ahead. So this was the heliocentric, yes, this is the geocentric. So what I want to point out here is Chiron and Eris. Really, this is big, and with Venus here in opposition, one of the best placements for Venus in the sign of Libra, one of its domiciles, its ruling signs. And in Libra, Venus is very socially appreciating of what life is. It is honoring your friends, your neighbors, your family, the whole world around you, by knowing that harmony and friendship is what pays back, in a very simple way. It creates a pleasant atmosphere. It creates a plane where no fear has to be, because it's honest, it's open, it's loving, appreciative. That is Venus in Libra, and Libra here also at the 4th house cusp here. A very beautiful kind of being in a most superior place. It's actually still, as you see, 27, 29 is still within the Leo dwad of this sign Libra. Leo again, the one which shines and has a radiance, and we have a Leo rising sign for this chart. Yes, the fire signs are definitely prominent here. But most of all, here, as seen from Earth now, how this energy shift is anchored in our 3D manifest reality, with Mercury here just receiving that big blast of energy. The black moon here, which is the collective shadow, and Mars right at the center of the two. So this is really breaking open the discussion in a big way, and also the perception. Mars and Mercury together, both in Sagittarius. This is really, now we are getting vocal. Now things will be spoken out, and the waves might get a bit higher in that sense of confrontation, but it is in good spirits with Venus down here, and it is in honor of truth, in honor of integrity, and I mean, the moon is even close by here. I mean, you can't make these things up, and we're just approaching full moon. So this is a super potent chart we have here, and again, this is the beginning of a 30-year cycle, so look at it also from this angle. And we have to think long term, because there will be such enormous changes coming in the next year alone, just to integrate that and then to build on that. I mean, we're moving towards free energy, for example. I keep saying, I mean, we talk about, well, this is a little bit of a side pocket here, but I just like to bring that up as it's so basic. We're definitely moving into a heaven on earth, but how can that happen? Well, the most simple explanation is to bring out all these hidden patterns out of the drawers, which have been bought up or bribed away or whatever, people literally exterminated. Like a good example is Mayers, I forget his first name, the guy who found how to run a car on water, yes, on water, by finding a wonderful way to split water using less energy than what the combustion would bring. So if this energy balance is in the right gradient, then we can derive power out of water, for example, or out of a black box or whatnot, because there are plenty of patterns, and once we have free energy, then we can do anything. Then everything is free in abundance. We can green the deserts, you name it. This is the critical point we have to get to, and this is happening as soon as that control mechanism is removed, which we now clearer and clearer can see how it's blocking us from evolution, throwing sticks into our wheels and things like that. No offense to it, this is its job. We have to allow it to go to that extreme place, which then will be the fuel for the awakening, for the transformation, literally. So it is an activation energy which which brings the frequency up to such a level where then there's enough, which is called the what's it called, the activation energy. You know it. I mean, every chemical reaction needs a certain input first, and then it gets going. That's where we're heading, and we need the dark forces, the dark energies. There are just different characters in that play. It is literally the actualization of a Shakespeare drama, which we are seeing in real life and in real time. And I mean, people go to the movie theaters to experience fear and horror. Why not open your eyes and experience it in the real world and transform it? And that is exactly what is possible right now. Anyway, let's look at what else I have here for you. So, okay, here we go. So at 10:34 p.m. Saturn is making this huge energetic shift, and 14 minutes later there is another really big shift of Uranus as it now moves backward into hexagram 8, the one we just spoke about a few minutes earlier. So Uranus is back in this segment of the zodiac, hexagram 8, union, finding union, where it will station to direct motion sometime in December, and then in January it will come out again into the sign of Gemini for good and go on into contemplation, where it will be definitely for 2 years. But that kind of last visitation of that 8 frequency will yet add in a much more magical way in bringing us together. It already has started in many ways, but this chart in itself shows with the Leo rising, and here again Venus even more exactly at the 4th house cusp here. Yes, I mean, Saturn and Uranus work in tandem. Here it's mostly the zodiac sign, which interestingly enough from Earth's perspective, Saturn is still in Pisces. So this is kind of very disguised at this point still, that Aries influence of new pioneering force. So it's kind of an interesting situation, which often happens with slow planets when they change signs, that heliocentrically they're already ahead and lagging behind, as seen from planet Earth, which gives that overlap and that interesting phase, which, I mean, it's such an amazing time we're living in. I can't repeat that enough. So, okay, this is 10:49 p.m. and then at 4:54 a.m., that's now a few hours in the future for where I am and where we are all, but where time I'm recording. But this is another really interesting one, kind of yet adding another direction, a level to it. TX300. What is TX300? TX300 is a Kuiper belt object which is presently at 13 degrees and 1 minute in Taurus. And the moon is approaching it, so that is kind of definitely saying, well, look there, that is really something to look at. So what are we looking at? TX300 is a big mouth, a loud mouth, which stands up and uses a megaphone. Very clear to me, that was during the trucker convoy in 2022 here in Canada. That planet kept standing out in the charts over and again. It's really that big machine which gives you a presence and a voice which cannot be overseen. So that has will be, as seen from the Sun again, it would be exactly in conjunction with Earth. And as we are standing on Earth, though, the Sun is above us, and so to say TX 300 is below us, the other side, therefore forming that opposition, excuse me. With Jupiter here at the helm of the chart, the direction of expansion, of growth, it's the crown of the tree in this beautiful big configuration here, which I have mentioned in my earlier recording, but it deserves to be mentioned once more. That's the bigger setting of what's going on. We have that beautiful trine between Jupiter and Saturn. Now this is as seen from Earth, and as I showed you before, as seen from the Sun, they still are about 10 degrees short of having that exact 120 degree angle. But it so happens that Jupiter will turn backward again just in a few days, on the 11th at 2509. Now this is important, that's why I mentioned it, 2509 in Cancer, and Saturn is still going backward till the 28th of November and turning direct at 2509 in Pisces. How about that? An exact 120 degree angle between the two stations, yet yes, it won't happen at the same moment in time, but these are super important anchor points. It's like where you put the big stake into the ground where a planet turns backward or forward again, as seen from Earth. It's the kind of the maximum of this sway of the pendulum from one side to the other, which sets the pace for the whole next movement. So to say, 2509, yes, 2509 it is for both of them, which shows a deep harmony within those two big forces which form societies, collective groups of people, countries, continents, races, economies. All of those big things are ruled by Jupiter and Saturn in consort. So that harmony speaks for it's really a miracle within all that chaos that this is even possible, but that's what we see. And in factual geocentric alignments, these two planets will have 3 exact trines in 2026, so this is just kind of future music we are seeing here, a first indication of where it's going. So the 26 in 26 naturally Jupiter by then will be in Leo, and Saturn will be in the early degrees of Aries. So that's the fire signs then, which will be holding that that harmonic frequency. Right now it's kind of a little hidden, stuffed away, but it's in the water signs, which are giving that nourishment. Now the interesting thing is that, yes, what we just mentioned before, that Black Moon mainly is the one which is in the main focus. You see he makes the exact third part in this grand trine in the 25 degree area, and actually the Black Moon will be exactly at 2509. I looked that up just for curiosity, on the 7th of November, just 3 days away. So there's some magic going on there, and the Black Moon is the shadow, the what's pushed away. So it could well be that we are in such an natural harmonic frequency of Jupiter and Saturn, creating that field that the Black Moon can be looked at without too much fear or worry or anger or rage or whatever you call it, all these darker emotions which we humans are meant to integrate. And revenge is a really big one. I guess it is maybe the one which is the most difficult in a way to forgive, and to see that whatever action has been received is part of my own story, because I have invited that character into my life to play that role, to give me the reason to learn something, to expand and receive that polarity in that neutral way. That's the way forward. That's where we have to go. That's the big difference between Judaic, which actually goes back to Babylonian religions. The whole Judaism is really totally in the footsteps of the Babylonic gods, who are angry and who ask for revenge, the eye for an eye principle, all of that. That's what we have to transmute. And Christ already has given us the evolution which we are heading toward. Of yes, it says, if you get hit on the one cheek, give the other cheek as well. Forgive your enemies, love your enemy. Yes, these are beautiful concepts, but they have to be real. We cannot just go there mentally. That's not working. We have to really work from base up to integrate these polarities. That's what's happening. That's what I'm telling you here, the bigger picture. That's what's right now possible. And yes, just the last one quickly, which is what I showed you already in my last recording, but this is the one which really nails the things down. That is then tomorrow 10:30 p.m. when the moon will be closest to Earth. That is at 1914 in Taurus. That is just 12 hours after full moon. So yes, this is the biggest full moon of the year. It's within 6 degrees of its closest approach to the Earth, and you know the moon moves in an ellipse around Earth, so it comes quite close and then is farther away, naturally 14 days later. But this empowers, expands the energy of the moon, and that moment when it's closest is redefining its trajectory, its next round, it's that starting point. And what I'm getting to, look at the rising sign 1255 Leo here for Greenwich, which I do all my charts for on the 0 meridian, and 24 hours prior, this is when heliocentric Saturn enters Aries. 1255, 1255. This is magic. This is the magic of sacred geometry. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. Enjoy the ride. It's getting better by the day. It's really getting good. Absolutely, 100%. Love you all. Bye bye.